India shreds Pakistan's nuclear threat after Pahalgam terror attack. Vertical bar spotlight N18G. Kashmir, claimed by both India and Pakistan, has been a long-standing area of tension between the two countries. Indian-administered Kashmir has seen a decades-long insurgency that has claimed thousands of lives, but attacks on tourists have been rare. On April 22, 2025, there was a terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. The attack killed 26 people. 25 tourists were from various Indian states, and one was from Nepal. A lot of other people got injured. The assailants, armed with AK-47s and M4 carbines, targeted a group of tourists. In the well-known Baisaran Valley, which is close to Pahalgam, they went after a group of tourists. According to reports, the attackers put the victims into groups based on their religion and then shot them. Pakistan said the attack had nothing to do with them, but Indian police think the attackers may have been from Pakistan. This caused India to close the Wagah border crossing, tell Pakistani officials to leave, and end the Indus Waters Treaty. These steps were all very important. It got worse between them when Pakistan said it wouldn't join and would do something right back. The shooting has caused a lot of tourists to leave Kashmir and change their plans. This is also bad for tourism in the places around Kashmir. Who has claimed responsibility? It is not clear who is responsible for the Pahalgam attack. A relatively new militant outfit called Kashmir Resistance, also known as the Resistance Front, TRF, initially claimed responsibility on social media, but it has reportedly since walked back that claim, according to multiple local media reports. CNN could not independently verify the initial claim nor the subsequent withdrawal and has reached out to the Indian Army and police in Indian-administered Kashmir for comment. India has classified TRF as a terrorist organization and linked it to the outlawed Islamist group Lashkar-e-Taiba, LT, which was behind the deadly Mumbai attacks in 2008, and has a much higher profile. 2 days after the massacre, police in Indian-administered Kashmir published notices naming 3 LET suspects allegedly involved in the attack. 2 of the 3 are Pakistani nationals, according to the notices. They did not say how the men were identified. For Sunil Singh, there is only one way for India to respond to last week's attack by militants in Kashmir. Those terrorists and their supporters should be shot dead, and their houses should be blown up, the shopkeeper said. We should even use the Air Force and drop bombs on the residential areas where these terrorists find shelter. There should be a bloodbath in Pakistan to teach them a lesson. Since 25 tourists and 1 local guide were killed by militants last Tuesday afternoon, as they strolled peacefully through Kashmir's verdant Baisaran Valley, much of the Indian public has been baying for vengeance. It was the deadliest attack on civilians in more than 2 decades in India's restive region of Kashmir. The gruesome details of the attack from survivors, that the gunmen singled out the Hindu men and ruthlessly shot them, sent shockwaves of horror across the Hindu-majority country. Pressure on Narendra Modi and his Hindu nationalist government to mount a military response has continued to grow. The Prime Minister promised to identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backer. For many in India, that means only one thing: direct military action against their neighbor Pakistan, which for decades has been accused of backing and bankrolling the violent separatist insurgency in Indian-administered Kashmir as it claims the territory fully as its own. The Modi government has said Pakistan has linkages to last week's attack, and 2 of the militants allegedly responsible are Pakistani. The attack was initially claimed by a little-known insurgent group, the Kashmir Resistance Front, which India believes to be a proxy for the Pakistan-backed Lashkar-e-Taiba terror group, though it later issued a denial. In an attempt to ward off military retaliation, Pakistan can ill afford as it struggles with an economic and security crisis. The country's Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, promised a neutral, transparent probe into the incident. So far, actions taken by the Modi government have included suspending the Indus Waters Treaty, which for 6 decades had been a critical water-sharing agreement for Pakistan, and provides 80% of water for its agriculture. Pakistani diplomats have been summoned and expelled, and visas for Pakistanis suspended. Even several Pakistani YouTube channels have been banned, including those run by former cricketers. But for many on the streets of Delhi's busy Lajpat Nagar market, this was simply not strong enough, as the attack stoked decades-old, deep-rooted anti-Pakistan sentiment. Singh said, "Pakistan is the root of the problem, and our military should go all out to teach them a lesson. Unless we break their back, these heinous acts will continue to occur. Our Prime Minister has our full support, Our military has our full support. India and Pakistan have gone to war 4 times since independence in 1947. The last time India took military action against Pakistan was in 2019, though that had disputed results, leading to the downing of an Indian jet. Among diplomats in Delhi, the widespread feeling was that India was preparing imminently for some form of contained military action in retaliation, which would nonetheless try to avoid escalating into a fully fledged war between the two nuclear-armed countries. Sanjeev Mehra, a retail businessman, echoed the call for a military assault on Pakistan. This has manifested in direct attacks and violence towards Kashmiri Muslims. Students and security guards have been attacked and run out of their hostels and their jobs, and Kashmiris across the country have returned home, fearing for their safety. A Kashmiri engineering student in Punjab College, who spoke anonymously for his protection, described how he had stayed hidden in his apartment for 2 days after the attack, hearing that Kashmiris were being targeted, but eventually had to leave to buy groceries. Kashmir, in the foothills of the Himalayas, has been disputed since Pakistan came into being in 1947. Both India and Pakistan claim it in full, but each controls a section of the territory, separated by one of the world's most heavily militarized borders, the line of control based on a ceasefire border established after the 1947-48 war. China controls another part in the east. India and Pakistan have gone to war 2 times over Kashmir, most recently in 1999. As a search for the 4 gunmen responsible has continued, Kashmir, which has a long history of human rights abuses inflicted at the hands of the state, has faced a draconian crackdown, with more than 1,500 people rounded up by police over the past week. Government forces have been using explosives to unilaterally demolish houses in Kashmir of those alleged to be linked to militants, an increasingly common tactic under the BJP nicknamed Bulldozer Justice. India brought up the Pahalgam terror attack at the United Nations. Calling itself the victim of cross-border terrorism, India flagged the Pakistan defense minister's open confession to training and funding terrorists. Ambassador Yojana Patel, India's deputy permanent representative at the UN, said his confession was not surprising, and it exposed Pakistan as a rogue state that has been fueling global terrorism. On the sidelines, on the night of April 28 to 29, Pakistani troops violated the ceasefire along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir for the 5th consecutive night. However, the Indian army responded in a measured and effective manner, officials said. The firing took place in areas opposite Kupwara and Baramulla districts, as well as the Akhnur sector. On Monday, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh briefed Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the security preparedness in Jammu and Kashmir, following the Pahalgam terror attack. The meeting came a day after Mr. Singh met the Chief of General Staff General Anil Chauhan to discuss the key decisions taken up by the military to counter Pakistan, following the horrific terrorist attack in Pahalgam. What happens next? All eyes are now on how New Delhi and Islamabad will respond, with analysts fearing the potential for military escalation. Arzan Tarapur, a research scholar from Stanford University's Center for International Security and Cooperation, said Modi will have a very strong, if not irresistible, political compulsion to retaliate with force. We don't know what that would look like, and it's somewhat meaningless to speculate at this point, but I think the 2019 Balakot crisis provides some cues on what to watch for in India's response, Tarapur said, referring to New Delhi's response to a militant attack on Indian troops which killed at least 40 paramilitary personnel in Indian-administered Kashmir. New Delhi retaliated by launching airstrikes on Pakistan, the first such incursion into its territory since a 1971 war between the two. The key question will be, will they seek to impose more meaningful, tangible costs on terrorist groups, including by targeting their leadership or headquarters facilities? Or will India go even further, crossing the threshold to attack the Pakistan army? Relations between India and Pakistan are severing. Neither of the two nuclear-armed rivals is ready to back down. The earlier the world intervenes and proffers a lasting solution, the better it will be for humanity. Kindly like, share, and hit the subscribe button to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching.